You are not separate from the version of yourself that already possesses everything you seek. You are entwined with it, deeply connected. The universal field waits for your signal. But this signal is not only about your desires, it's about who you choose to be. There exists a version of you, already living the life you envision, not as a distant possibility, but as a living frequency. Through the mysterious laws of the universe, you are already aligned with it. Not tomorrow, not after your healing. Right now, the question isn't whether your ideal life exists. The question is, why haven't you tuned into it yet? If your life feels stagnant, if your goals seem out of reach, it's not because they are distant. It's because your current identity remains entangled with a version of yourself that doubts, delays, and sabotages. The moment you shift who you believe yourself to be, not just in thought but in essence, everything around you begins to shift. Here's the truth, most never learn how this works. They spend their lives trying to force change from the outside in, struggling, hustling, pushing. Even when they discover spiritual practices, they often repeat the same mistake, attempting to visualize a new life without collapsing the old identity that anchors them to the past. This is why this isn't just another explanation of manifestation. It's a breakdown of reality and a guide to collapsing timelines. Here, two powerful concepts converge: quantum entanglement and quantum jumping. Entanglement explains why your energy affects the world around you, why your inner state shapes your reality. It shows that even your subconscious beliefs are not isolated but affect the fabric of your existence. You are constantly broadcasting a signal into the universe. This signal isn't just the words you speak. It's the vibration of your identity interacting with the infinite possibilities that surround you. Quantum jumping, often misunderstood, is not magic or escapism. It's a transformation of identity, enabling you to move between entangled realities where different versions of you already exist, waiting to be realized. And here's where it gets profound. You've already experienced this. That moment when you made a choice and everything instantly shifted, that was a jump. That instant change in perception, where for a moment you saw yourself differently, that was a timeline shift. The intuition you have that you're destined for something greater, that's your future self beginning to reveal itself. In the divine quantum field, time is not linear but layered. It means that your future self can reach backward as easily as you can move forward. You are locked in a feedback loop with the version of yourself who has already manifested everything you desire. And the connection is alive right now. This is the truth. The divine field doesn't require your effort. It requires your coherence, your clarity, and your frequency to match what you seek, not just with words, but with the core of your being. In this video, we will unearth everything you thought you knew about manifestation and take you step by step through the most powerful tool you've yet to fully understand: how quantum entanglement makes timeline jumping not only possible but inevitable once you learn how to harness it. No, this isn't about visualization. It's not about hoping, wishing, or trying. This is about identity collapse and frequency alignment. Reality is coded, and I'll show you exactly how entanglement works, not only in subatomic particles, but in your own life. We will explore the science behind it, but more importantly, we will dive into how this explains everything that has ever felt misaligned in your reality. The version of you that already has everything you desire is connected to you now. Let's explore why you haven't yet shifted into it. Quantum entanglement is more than just theory. It is one of the most well-documented, yet least understood phenomena in modern science. In its simplest form, it means that two particles, once linked, remain so in such a way that a change in one will immediately affect the other, no matter the distance between them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. But what remains overlooked is the profound implications this has for you, your consciousness, your identity, and your reality. If matter can behave in such a way, why not you? You are not a lone particle floating in an empty void. You are a dynamic, living field of consciousness. And just like those particles, you are entangled not only with others, but with versions of yourself across timelines, versions that made different choices, that followed different paths, that healed when they could have run, jumped when they could have waited, chose when they could have doubted. You are not disconnected from them. You are vibrating either in sync or out of sync with them. This determines the version of yourself that the universe reflects back to you as your current life. But here's the paradox. Most people stay entangled with a version of themselves still struggling, still holding on to fear. Not because they want to, but because they've been conditioned to. Through repetition, trauma, and deep identity loops, they no longer even question these patterns. And what you stay entangled with, you reinforce. You broadcast. You collapse it into reality. So when people say, "I've tried to manifest, but nothing works," the issue is not their effort. It's that their signal, the deep unconscious one, is still emanating from the version of themselves that doesn't believe, that doesn't take action, that doesn't embody their new reality. And here's the divine law. The quantum field doesn't respond to want. It doesn't respond to begging or mere visualization. It responds to frequency. And your frequency isn't shaped by what you think about for a few minutes a day. It is formed by what you embody every single moment. You are the observer, and the observer collapses timelines. But here's the key. What version of you is doing the observing? That is the question most people fail to ask. It's the reason most people never jump. Jumping is not something you do. It's something you become. You cannot quantum leap into the life you dream of if you are still acting from the version of yourself who believes they are unworthy. You cannot shift timelines by visualizing success when your actions are rooted in fear. The quantum field doesn't care about your words. It cares about your vibration. It cares about what you are entangled with, what you are reinforcing through your actions, your focus, and your energy. And sometimes, the version of you who already has what you desire is the very one pulling you forward. You feel it in flashes, in dreams, in moments where the veil between realities seems thin. You catch glimpses of a life that feels just out of reach. Not because you are imagining it, but because you are beginning to bleed into it, and it into you. The connection is already there. The only question is, how long will you keep ignoring it? In the next section, I'll show you exactly how to begin realigning your being. Not just through belief or mindset, but through direct, intentional identity collapse. This is how we shift. This is how we move beyond our limitations. This is how we stop looping in the past and begin transforming into the future we know we are meant for. But before we proceed, pause for a moment. If this message resonates with you, it means you're not learning something new. You're remembering a truth that was always embedded in you. That's the divine activation at play. You are not hearing something unfamiliar. You are reconnecting with an ancient knowing within you. So if something moved in you as you watch this, do me a favor. Hit subscribe, not for me, but for you. For the version of you who is ready to step into the present moment, and tell me in the comments, what timeline are you ready to let go of? Not the one you dream of, but the one you're finally ready to collapse. Name it. Witness it. That's the first step toward releasing it. Now, are you ready to meet the method? You have been entangled with the version of you that doubts, delays, and compromises. But the version of you that has already made the leap, it's not somewhere out there. It's already present within you. The only reason you haven't fully stepped into that reality is because the identity you are currently embodying keeps pulling you back into the same cycles. Now, it's time to rewrite the observer. You see, every moment, you are choosing which version of you is seeing the world. Most people don't realize this. They believe they are their thoughts, their habits, their personalities. But all that is just programming software that can be changed. What most forget is that you are the one choosing the system that runs your life, and you can reboot it at any time. This is the key to transcending the limits of quantum entanglement, not by becoming someone new, but by choosing to stop observing life from the perspective of limitation. The shift does not happen through action. It happens through collapse. So let's begin with what you're not going to do. You're not going to visualize. You're not going to chant. You're not going to close your eyes and imagine yourself elsewhere. Not yet. These are the tricks of the old self, trying to escape, but true transformation is not about escape. It is about reclamation. We begin with one thing, awareness. Ask yourself, right now, without hesitation, who is the version of me that is currently choosing this life? What are their beliefs, their fears, their assumptions about the world? How do they speak to themselves when no one is around? Take a deep breath. Tune into this version of yourself. You will start to notice a pattern, a flavor of energy, a subtle weight in your chest, a tightness in your throat. That's no coincidence. That's the imprint of your current observer. For years, you've been collapsing your reality from this place. Now, ask yourself the most crucial question you will ever ask. Am I willing to let this version of me die? Because that's what a jump truly is. It's not a leap across timelines. It's a death. The quiet, sacred passing of the version of you that can no longer hold your future. And most people aren't willing to let go. Not because the old self is good or beneficial, but because it is familiar. Familiar pain, familiar struggle, familiar identity. Even misery can feel like home when we've decorated it with justifications. But now in this moment, you have a choice. Here is the method. It doesn't have a grand name. It's not a technique. It's a conscious realignment in 3 parts. Part 1. Witness. Sit in the presence of the version of you that you're ready to release. Let them speak. Let them be seen, not judged, simply seen. Most timelines don't fade because they are resisted. They fade because they are outgrown with grace. Part 2. Sever. This is where you shift the entanglement. Speak a simple truth, aloud or within. This is no longer who I am. Release this version. Collapse this observer. You may feel resistance. This is natural. The old self will fight for its existence, but its power lies only in your belief that it is still you. Part 3. Choose. Once the field is clear, choose the new identity. But don't just think it. Embody it. Stand like them. Breathe like them. Move like them. Decide from their frequency. Don't ask, what would the version of me who has everything do? Instead, ask, what does this version no longer tolerate? And stop tolerating it now. These steps are not a one-time ritual. They are a way of being. Every day, every breath is a reinforcement of the new entanglement. Over time, no, not in years, but in energetic cycles, the field will align, for it has no choice. This is the law of the quantum universe. The observer collapses the wave into a particle. Reality conforms to the identity of the observer, but only when that identity is unwavering. And here is the beauty of all this. The version of you who already lives the life you desire is not a stranger. It's not some future version that doesn't exist yet. It's a memory encoded in your energetic field. A path that is still active, waiting for you to walk it. We will explore what happens after the jump. Because jumping is not the end. It's only the beginning of recalibration. Without integration, even the most powerful leap will collapse under the weight of old programs trying to reclaim their place. But for now, sit with this question. What parts of me am I still allowing to make decisions, even though I have outgrown them? And do they still have the right to define who I am? Take a breath, not just for your lungs, but for your timeline. Because if you've made it this far in this video, you've already begun something most people never dare to attempt. You've questioned the authority of your own past. You've challenged the identity that has been holding the pin to your reality. That alone begins the shift. You may not feel like you've jumped yet, but something has already moved. A thread has loosened. A signal has been sent. And that's how every quantum leap begins. Not with fireworks, but with frequency. And this brings us here. You did it. You collapsed the old self. You released the version that kept you looping. You stood in a new identity, even if just for a moment. And in that moment, the field shifted. A new observer took command of your life. But now comes the part no one talks about, recalibration. Because jumping doesn't just mean entering a new timeline, it means becoming stable in it. And like any system that has been running on the same frequency for years, when you suddenly upgrade to a new operating identity, there will be noise. You'll notice strange occurrences. People might respond to you differently, not because you've said something new, but because they feel it. Energy always precedes language. Behavior will shift subtly. Some relationships will begin to feel uneasy, not because you're rejecting them, but because they are tuned to the old version of you, the version you just let go. But the most unexpected part is this: the old timeline may try to pull you back. Not as punishment, not as failure, but as a vibrational echo. You may feel overwhelmed, emotional, uncertain, not because you're wrong, but because your nervous system is still catching up. You have stepped out of an old frequency, and your system is recalibrating to the new one. This is normal. Imagine a radio changing its station after years of static. There will be overlap, mixed signals, ghost frequencies. And in that noise, the old identity may whisper, "Nothing has changed. You are still the same." This is the test, not of your strength, but of your clarity. Because reality doesn't shift linearly. It shifts quantumly. The moment you step into a new state, everything that doesn't match it begins to fall away. And what falls away will fight back before it leaves. You may be tempted to interpret discomfort as failure, but discomfort is simply a sign that the old identity is breaking apart. This is the moment when most people unknowingly undo their transformation. They fall back into the old observer, not because it was better, but because it was familiar. So, how do you stay anchored in the new reality, in the new timeline? You don't force it. You don't pretend it's already here. You anchor it. Anchoring doesn't mean obsessively affirming or pretending that everything is fine when it's not. It means choosing to respond from the new identity, even when the world has yet to reflect it. This is the true test of coherence. When your bank account still shows scarcity, but you respond with abundance. When your relationship still feels stuck, but you speak from wholeness. When fear knocks on the door, but you answer from your highest self, not from the self that has been weighed down by old doubts. Every time you choose to embody the new observer in thought, feeling, and action, you stabilize the field. And here is the divine truth about the quantum realm. It does not reward effort. It reflects consistency. The universe is not testing you. It is listening to you. Every vibration you emit, whether subtle or overt, tells the universe who you truly believe yourself to be. So, instead of asking, "Why hasn't my new reality manifested yet?" ask, "What version of me have I been reinforcing today?" This is where the jump becomes real, not in moments of inspiration, but in moments of doubt. When you repeatedly choose to be the person you have decided to become. And yes, you will wobble. You will forget. You will slip back into old patterns. But each time you remember, each time you breathe and return to the new identity, you retune the field. Over time, not in years, but in energetic cycles, the old frequencies lose their grip. They fade, and what once felt like struggle will become natural, effortless, and obvious. You are not faking it until you make it. You are feeling it until you stabilize it. There's a difference. And eventually, without even noticing, you'll look around and realize that your external reality has shifted, not because you forced it, but because you became unwavering in your frequency. You stopped reacting from lack. You stopped negotiating with limitation. You stopped allowing the voice of the old self, the one that never believed in you, to dominate. And when that voice no longer has dominion, reality has no choice but to update its script. Before we continue, sit with this for a moment. What is one choice you can make today that only the version of you in the new timeline would make? Not a giant leap, just one choice, one shift, one aligned moment of coherence. Because that's all it takes to start reinforcing the new field. In the next few moments, we will close the loop. We'll explore how to live in sustained quantum awareness, where jumping is not something you do, but something you become. We will seal everything you've learned into a new way of seeing, living, and transmitting. A way that doesn't just upgrade your life, it upgrades your timeline. And so it begins, not the leap that already happened, not the test that was part of the noise, but the moment where everything inside you slows, recalibrates, and settles. The moment where the new version of you becomes the only version that makes sense. Because something subtle happens when you choose coherence over chaos again and again. The new identity stops feeling like a mask. It stops feeling like a performance. Without even realizing it, you become the version you used to visualize. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped feeding the version of yourself that couldn't hold it. This is the true integration. Where decisions feel quieter, but deeper. Where responses come from truth, not protection. Where you no longer debate with old thoughts because they no longer belong to you. They were echoes from a previous identity, from a past self, and they no longer survive in the field of your new reality. This is the quantum made practical. Not philosophy, not poetic theory, but your life. You'll notice that old patterns no longer activate you. Emotions will arise and dissolve without needing to define you. You'll speak differently. You'll move differently, not because you're trying to act like someone new, but because you're no longer pretending to be someone you're not. And this is the full loop. The observer who once collapsed your reality has been replaced, not by magic, but by conscious choice, repetition, breath, and awareness. And in doing so, the entire field around you, people, opportunities, experiences, begins to realign. Not because reality is rewarding you, but because reality is simply responding to the truth of who you are now. So what happens next? You live it. You walk. You wake. You feel. And each time life hands you contrast, as it inevitably will, you ask yourself one simple question: which version of me is being invited right now? That's it. That's the key. That's the gate. You are not meant to live from control. You are meant to live from signal. And your signal becomes clearer with every aligned choice, every regulated breath, and every moment of remembrance. Because truthfully, you didn't jump into another timeline. You collapsed the illusion of separation between you and the version of yourself who was always waiting. That life was never out of reach. That self was never unreachable. The entanglement was always active. You simply stopped ignoring it. And now the only thing left to do is live as if this is normal. Because when it becomes normal, it becomes real. Your timeline doesn't upgrade through force, it upgrades through embodiment. Now take a deep breath. Feel what's different in your body, not what you hope for, but what you already know. That's your signal. That's your anchor. That's your proof. And before you go, let me leave you with this. If this video found you at the right moment, if it reminded you of something ancient within you, then this is your sign to not let the algorithm decide when you remember again. Subscribe to this channel, not because you were told to, but because something within you desires to stay connected to this field, this resonance, this rhythm, this frequency you now carry. And tell me in the comments, not just what changed, but what new reality you are now ready to embody. Describe it, even in one sentence, not as a wish, but as a recognition. Let your words be the signal that tells the universe, I'm already here. Because when you name the life you're now living, you activate it in others, and the universe responds in kind. This is how we shift together.